Okay, let's try and unpack what's been happening in the markets today. You're probably trying to get a handle on the recent moves, figure out the signals, right?
Absolutely. Lots of moving parts.
So we've got Grok Trade's market summary for May 5th, 2025, right here. And our plan for this deep dive is, well, to cut through some of that noise, we want to get to the key insights, especially around stocks, that whole U.S.-China trade situation, and also what's happening with crypto and gold.
Sounds good, because the big question everyone's asking is probably, is this pullback a dip to buy or maybe the start of something, well, bigger?
Exactly. That's what we're digging into. Is it opportunity or maybe a warning sign?
And Grok Trade's summary gives us some really crucial pieces to that puzzle. It's fascinating how different assets are reacting, really.
Okay, let's dive straight into the stock market then. The overall picture, well, U.S. stocks saw a pretty noticeable sell-off today. Multi-percentage drops in some cases.
Yeah, definitely some red on the screen.
Looking at the S&P 500, the SPY, it's down 0.57%. But here's the kicker. It's hovering just below its 200-day moving average.
A really critical level.
Grok Trade notes the price action seems kind of paused there, like it's maybe building energy for whatever comes next. What do you make of that pause?
Well, that hesitation, especially around the STY's 200-day, that's a big deal. It's often seen as a sort of line in the sand for traders, right? So the fact that it's stalled right there, yeah, it could suggest pressure building up. Historically, these pauses, they can definitely lead to bigger moves.
There need more clues which way it breaks.
Exactly. You'd maybe look at volume, other indicators, see if they give a clear signal about where that energy might get released.
Okay. Now, the Dow Jones, the DIA, it's down less, 0.19%.
A bit more modest, yeah.
But what's interesting is for the second day running, it poked its head above its 50-day moving average during the day.
Right, it tried.
But then closed below it again. It almost feels like it's, bumping its head.
Yeah, like hitting a ceiling.
So is this failed breakout attempt a sign of strong resistance? Or is it just, I don't know, temporary? Like it's just catching its breath before trying again?
That repeated rejection at the 50-day for the Dow, it does raise some questions about, how strong the buyers really are up there.
Okay.
When you see multiple attempts to break a level and they keep failing, it can mean sellers are stepping in pretty actively.
Makes sense.
But it's also possible buyers are just, testing the waters. Maybe some good news, some catalyst could give it the push it needs. You'd want to see maybe more volume on the next try.
Gotcha. All right, let's switch to the NASDAQ, QQQ, down 0.59%. Also just under its 200-day average.
Right there as well. Seems to be the theme today.
It touched that level Friday,
Yeah.
right, and then pulled back a bit again today. So the big question seems to be, do the bears jump on this? Push it lower?
Or can the bulls somehow muster the strength to punch through?
Yeah, it really feels like a crucial point for tech stocks. How are you reading that?
Well, the NASDAQ mirroring the S&P below its 200-day, it definitely reinforces this feeling of the market being at a kind of decision point.
Okay.
The fact it tested it, then backed off, suggests there's likely some selling pressure right around there.
Right.
The key is going to be, does that selling pick up steam? Or do buyers see this as a chance and step in? It's a real tug of war right now. The next few days could be really telling.
And we shouldn't forget the Russell 2000 IWM. It actually had the biggest drop today, down 0.74%.
Yeah, that's notable. Small caps seem to be feeling the pressure maybe a bit more.
Any reason why that might be?
Well, the Russell's underperformance, it could reflect maybe a greater sensitivity to those broader economic worries, or perhaps just some specific issues in the small cap space. It adds another layer, suggesting the concerns aren't just hitting the big guys.
Okay, so stocks pulling back, key indices testing these big technical levels. Let's move on then into crypto and precious metals. Bitcoin.
Always interesting.
It closed flat today, but apparently had a pretty rough weekend. Saw a sell-off that pushed it back below $96,000.
Yeah, gave back some ground there, below 96K.
Now, Grok Trade talked last week about this high base that was forming above 96K and how important it was for Bitcoin to hold that level.
Right. That was seen as a potential support area.
But now it's fallen below it, and they're raising concerns about maybe a death hook scenario.
Yeah.
Can you maybe unpack that term for us? Death hook?
Sure. A death hook, it's basically trader jargon for nasty pattern. Price breaks out, looks strong, goes up.
Yeah, pulls people in thinking it's going higher.
Exactly. It attracts new buyers, new positions get opened, but then it reverses sharply.
Ouch. Trapping those who just bought.
Precisely. Traps the breakout buyers. Grok Trade mentions you often see it in things like wedges or triangles, but it can happen after these high base formations too, if they fail.
So the implication for Bitcoin bulls right now?
Well, that failure to hold above $96,000, that's a definite warning sign. It suggests the buying support up there maybe wasn't as strong as people thought.
Okay.
If the price doesn't recover pretty quickly, those folks who bought above 96K might feel pressured to sell, which could, add more fuel to the downside. So yeah, caution would probably be the word for bulls short term.
Got it. Now, flipping over to the other side, precious metals, gold, GLD had a good day, up 3%.
Nice move for gold.
And notably, it bounced right off its 20-day moving average. That seems like a pretty clear sign of continued strength underneath, doesn't it?
That strong showing in gold, yeah, especially bouncing off that key 20-day average, it really does suggest there's persistent buying interest there.
Why now, do you think?
Well, gold often acts as that classic safe haven asset, right? So its rally today could easily be reflecting those broader uncertainties we've been talking about, the stock market wobbles, the unresolved U.S.-China trade stuff, people looking for safety.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's try and bring it all together. What are the key takeaways from today?
All right, let's synthesize.
We saw a modest dip in U.S. stocks today. Key indices like the S&P and NASDAQ are testing those really critical 200-day moving averages.
Definitely key levels to watch, battlegrounds, really.
The uncertainty around U.S.-China trade talks, that continues to be a major drag on market sentiment. No clear progress there.
Yeah, that's casting a long shadow.
Bitcoin, meanwhile, closed flat after that weekend sell-off. And there's this concern now about a potential death hook playing out after falling below 96K.
Right. Caution advised there for the bulls.
And then gold rallied nicely, bouncing off support, showing resilient strength.
Classic safe haven move, perhaps.
So the big picture theme really seems to be a market sort of grappling with these trade tensions and waiting, maybe anxiously, for more economic data to get a clearer sense of direction.
That sums it up really well. It's a complex mix right now, geopolitical risks tangled up with economic fundamentals, and how that U.S.-China situation evolves, that's likely going to be a huge driver for markets soon.
It definitely feels like a lot to keep track of, and trying to understand all these dynamics can sometimes feel like you're navigating a maze.
It can, for sure.
But hopefully this deep dive into Grok Trade's report today has given you some clarity, helped focus on the essential signals from today's action.
Hope so.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. Given how sensitive the market is right now to trade news and with that key economic data coming up, what specific indicators are you going to be watching most closely in the next few days? And how might what they show shape your own outlook on where things are headed?